Okay, so till the last class, we just give the introduction to how do you create the classes, how do you create the variables inside that, and how the methods are going to be created. So that we discussed. Generally, when you're going to create the classes, right? So what we have is all the variables that you're going to define will be of the type called private, and the methods will be of the type what you call public. We'll discuss what is the private and what is this public is all about. We'll discuss that. Now, whenever you talk about the object-oriented programming, in the object-oriented programming, we have a concept called encapsulation. So what do you mean by encapsulation? The name itself says that capsuling it. You're going to put together, okay, something you're going to put together into one unit is what you call capsule. So the best example is, let us say that I'm having some, what you call chemical capsule is there, or some kind of capsule you talk about, or let us say that you talk about eggshell you talk about what inside there is something is there, but it is being put into one capsule like thing. Okay, something like this what will happen. I'm having my class, my data is there and my methods are there. All these data and my methods both are being put together into one unit we are going to put. What you call it as a capsule, we call it. We call it as an encapsulating, we call it as. Okay. So that is we are putting something what you call the data and the information we are going to both we are going to put together is what you call encapsulation. So when you say the encapsulation also does something what you call hiding of the data is going to be done for me. Okay, so we are going to have the concept called hiding or hiding of the implementations. Now, so what is there inside my class? I don't want to show it to the outside world. I want to protect it. Okay, I want to hide them. Then my encapsulation is also going to do that same thing. Okay, my encapsulation is going to do the hiding of the things what is there inside my class. Understood now? Oh, okay, just we took one second example like a capsule of a chemical capsule to talk about. So what is there inside that capsule? We don't know what chemical is there for us in my capsule. Okay, we are going to hide it. Okay, then so this encapsulation is going to be done with the help of the classes. So you use the classes and then inside the class you define the variables and all that. You're going to define it. Okay. So we have some examples, like when you say the encapsulation, like for example, let us there is some company is there. So inside what data is going to be there and all that. So we are going to hide this information. We are going to put that one into one capsule there. Okay, the company name alone will be knowing it, and then the other details we are going to hide it out. Something like that. Okay. We have one more example. Let's say now. So what data you want to make it available to the public, and what data that you want to hide it from others. Okay, so the data that you are going to make it available to the public, or you want to hide the data based upon your requirement, based upon the application, what you're going to design. You can have what the hiding of the data is going to be done for us by using the concept called encapsulation. Now, when we talk about the, okay, we have some example we are talking about, okay, let us say that we have some company, okay, so what you're talking about the entity, some entity we are taking or some object we are taking it, and for that one, some data we are going to have it. So let's just say you are talking about the data, maybe phone number of the company or the mobile number or what you call the email IDs, all that data are going to be made exposed to the external world. And then if you want to, okay, let us say there is some courier is coming into the company. So who is going to handle it and who is going to handle the courier, all that things, details are not known by the courier company guy. So the courier guy, what he does, he just gives the courier, he hands over it and goes it, but he is not, I mean, what you call interested, who is going to receive the courier and all that for me, okay? Something like that, we are going to hide the details from the external world, and we are going to have some details are going to be maintained internally for me. When we talk about the object-oriented programming, we also have something what we call abstraction we talk about. So what is this abstraction means? Remember, the very important thing is abstraction and encapsulation both go hand by hand. Almost they look similar, but they are both almost they look same thing for us. When you talk about the abstraction, so abstraction is the one which talks about hiding of the, I mean, what you call defining the relevant data and hiding the irrelevant data is what we call the abstraction. Now, when you say that, okay, we also talk about, like, for example, we ask, okay, let us say that you are asking something what you call abstract data you talk about. So when you say abstract data, what do you mean by abstract data? Abstract data, we say. When we say, I want the abstract data I want, it means that I don't want the detailed information, I don't want it. I want only the summary part I want it. For example, let us say that, okay, we are having some, let's just take the example of a college there. So in the college, okay, principal is there. So principal wants only the abstract data he wants. That means, okay, let us say some exam is being conducted. So principal asks for the abstract data. So means what? So in class, how many students are there? How many, what is the pass percentage? That's only he wants it. He is interested in that part. Okay, so he has that information. Or maybe the HOD is there. So when you talk about the principal maybe he is interested in the overall college. So totally what is the percentage for me in my college that he may be interested. When you talk about the HOD may be interested in his own department, but he may not be interested in other department for us. When you talk about the class teacher will be, interested only in that particular class. So in the class which he or she is handling it. Okay, they want the abstract data. That means they want, okay, what is the student, what is the number of students have been written the exam and how many of them are passed. The class teacher may be interested to know. So let us say the faculty is handling it. The faculty is handling the class. He is interested in more detailed information. He will be interested. So what individually he looks in what is the each and every student data, what is it, who has passed and who has failed, all that each and every subject he looks in. You understand what I'm talking about? So when you say abstract means what? We are going to have the data is going to be there. How the data is going to be presented to the external world is what we are talking in the abstraction part. So in case of the abstraction, we talk about hiding of the data or what you call hiding the irrelevant data to the others. So data which is irrelevant to others, we'll hide that one. What is relevant to others, that only we'll be projecting it. So that is what the abstraction talks about. Okay. When you talk about the encapsulation is what? Putting all these things into one capsule is what you call the encapsulation. Remember, encapsulation talks about hiding of the things, how they have been internally implemented. How things have been internally implemented is being done by the encapsulation for us. For example, let us say I'm having a car is going to be there. So when I'm having a car, so what you do is you look a car as one entity. You look a car as one entity. So what I'm seeing from the external thing, so I see a gear will be there, I'll see a handle will be there, steering will be there, or what you call a handle will be there for me. I'm having a steering there, I'm having a gearbox, gear is there, I'm having escalator is there. So I see that one what something has been exposed to me, some data is going to be shown to me. But when I'm applying a gear, so how the gears are changing the mechanism inside, so we don't know. So the things have been hidden from you. Okay, so the things have been made hidden for you. How the gear is implemented, we don't know. That is what encapsulation is going to talk about. So how many gear, how the gears are there, what are the, if you know the gear mechanism, there is what you call some gears will be there, what you call wheels will be there internally. I'm just using a small word I'm using called wheels there. So that will be rotating and all that, okay, all that. So how many gears, how many wheels you are using there, or what you call how many gears, how it's going to change, all the things are not necessary for us. All I need is what? So how many gears are there and how to apply it, when to use that particular gear only I need to know it. All the other details are not being made available to you. If you want to know it, then what you need to do, you need to open your car and then you can have a look at the things. Understood now? So both this encapsulation and the abstraction go hand by hand for us. Okay. So generally when you talk about this thing, so how to implement those things are going to be taken care by encapsulation for me. What it is, it's going to be taken care by the abstraction. Okay. So when you talk about the abstraction, let us say, let's say that there is one doctor is there. So doctor is sending some report, some lab test is sending it. When he's sending the lab test, okay, so the courier guy, what he has to know? He has to know only the address. See what lab test is there inside, what is the result of that lab test, all these things are not required by the courier guy. So only doctor knows it, what it is there inside it. The courier guy need not to know it. So I'm hiding the details there. I'm just giving what relevant data is required for him, only I'm giving it. So the lab, the courier guy doesn't want all the details like which report you have prepared, okay, what are the values of each and every, report value, what is that? That he doesn't need it, okay? Like that, what? So you'll be hiding the details from others, okay? You'll make some data which is wanted by others only, you'll make it available, and which is not required, that you'll be hiding it out, okay? Okay. So generally, when you talk about the abstraction part, we are talking about most of the programming languages. We have what we call abstract data types. We have a concept. So where the abstract data types are going to be, which is going to be over, we call what we call the abstract data types are like basically your class. The class itself will be acting as one abstract data type for me. As I said that, so abstraction talks about you're going to identify what is relevant and what is irrelevant. Okay, so what is necessary and what is not necessary. So for the external world, what is necessary, that only you are going to give it. For the external world, what is not necessary, that will be hiding it out. Okay, fine. How to implement, we have seen that. Okay, so we'll be defining what you call classes. We'll be defining it by using the class. We are going to have the body of the class you are going to define. So the body of the class consists of some variables and methods for me. So which variable you have to declare it and which method you have to declare it. Okay, that is left to you based upon the program that you're going to write. Okay, so that is something about the abstraction and encapsulation for us. Now, so we have seen one example. The last class we have taken one example. So the marks example we took. So we wanted you to write the code for the marks class. Now, when you talk about the marks class, the implementation of the marks can be done in two ways. So one way is by using simple variables. You can use this. You can use a simple variables can be used. Like for example, English Telugu variable you can declare it. Or so let us say you want to have the variables like M1, M2, M3, M4. That also can be done by you. Okay, so either you take multiple variables, you declare it, and then you can have them. Or so alternate method is what we also have one more method by using the arrays. Now I want to have this declaration to be done using the arrays. We can also do it using arrays. So you just try it out using the arrays there. So I've shown you like how to do it with a simple variable. You also try it with arrays also. So if I want to define using the arrays, then okay, I'll take a variable called marks. Okay, I'm taking a variable called m alone there. Okay, so I'm taking a variable called m there, and then so where this initialization you are going to do it, where the object is going to be created. Now, when I want to create the object, what we will do is we'll define one special method. We'll define what we call it as constructor. We'll define one method called constructor. So what is a method? Method is nothing but it's the function that you're going to define inside the class. Now I want to have a method called constructor. Now constructor is a method which is defined inside the class whose name is same as your class name. So I'm having a class called marks here. Okay, so I am having this method called set marks as there. So I have defined a name called set marks. Its name is different from the class name. So this is a simple method. This is only a method for you. Okay, this is only a method for me. I'm going to define a method called whose name is same as my class name. I'll define a method whose name is going to be same as the class name. So that method is called the constructor. Understand what I'm telling? We have a special method inside the class whose name is same as your class name. So that method you call it as a constructor, you call it as. You understand? So the other methods you're going to have it. You'll have the other methods are there whose name is not same as a class name. So they are normal methods for me. But there are methods whose name is same as my class name. Okay, so that method we call it as a constructor. Now, if you look into the constructor and a normal method, if you look in, there is a difference there. So what is the difference between this normal method and constructor for me? A normal method has the return data type will be there. We have the return data type followed with the name of the method. But whereas when you talk about the constructor there, so the constructor is not having any return data type. Understood there? The constructor doesn't have any return data type. Okay. So when you talk about the constructors and others, so I mean, the normal methods, we can have the parameters, we have seen that. But for constructor also we can have parameters. We can have constructors of two types. One is parameterized constructor, non-parameterized. Okay. So without any parameters also you can define, and you can also define the constructors with the parameters. Okay. Now here I said I'm going to have this variable called m variable I've taken. It's an array type. Now I want to create the instance of this one. I want to allocate the memory. So what I'm doing, I'll allocate the memory for that one in my constructor. Okay. Able to understand? I'm initializing the memory for my array inside the constructor there. Now that means I'm using my constructor for initialization of data. Okay, so able to understand? So my initialization of, okay, let me use a better word, initialization of variables. Okay, So whatever the variables, I'm going to have it inside my class. Or what I call it as memory allocation. I'm doing my memory allocation. Or if you want to have the better word, you can also use one more word called resource allocation. The resource allocation, I'm going to do it. So what is the resource there? Memory. Memory is one of my resource. So I want to allocate the memory for storing the 6 subject marks. I want to store it then. So that resource allocation, I'm going to do it in my constructor. So generally, constructors are the methods which are used for the allocation of memory or resource allocation, right? So generally what we do is we write the code that you want to do it immediately. So after the object creation. And here one has to remember that the constructors are the special methods for us, which will be invoked during the object creation. You understand what I'm telling? The constructors are the special methods, okay, that will be invoked during your object creation. For example, so I'm having here marks. Okay, some object I'm creating M1 is equal to new marks I'm going to do. Now this is the place where I'm creating my object. This is my object creation. So this is the place where I'm creating my object. Now when I create my object here, the constructor is going to be called for me. You understand what I'm telling? So here the constructor is going to be called. Remember, constructors are special methods. Why they are special means one is their name is same as your class name. The second thing is they don't have the return data type. So return data type will not be there for the constructors. Constructors are also again special because they are called automatically by the compiler itself. So your compiler itself will be calling your constructor, it will be calling it. When it is going to call it, it is going to call it at the time of object creation. So whenever you're going to create the object, or that is whenever you're going to allocate the memory for the object, in that place, it is going to call the constructor method. Understood? The constructor method is called automatically. But what about the other methods? What we are defining? The other methods? So the other methods which you are defining has to be called by you. If you're not calling them, they'll not be called. Only when I call them, they'll be called. Okay, when I call them using my object as a reference, then the methods will be called. Otherwise, the objects will not be called. Sorry, the methods will not be called. Whereas in case of the constructor, what happened? The constructor methods are called automatically. You need not to worry about calling that. Now, as we discussed, we said we can have the constructors with parameters and we can also have constructors without parameters. That we'll discuss next. We'll discuss. Okay. So you understood basically what is meant by constructor. Constructor is a special method that we are defining inside the class whose name is same as your class name, right? So constructors doesn't have a return value. So constructors are the methods which are called automatically when you're going to create the object. Generally, we write the code for initialization, or that is what you call object creation. Any activity that you want to do it during the object creation, that you're going to do it in case of your constructors. For example, let us say you are designing an app, okay? Like for example, PhonePe app you are designing, right? You are designing an app like PhonePe. What you want to do in the startup? So as soon as you're opening the app, you want to do something there. What it will happen? What it will be doing? So important thing is it will be looking for the internet connectivity. So for my PhonePe to work, I need to have my internet connectivity. So you have seen that most of the time, as soon as you open your PhonePe app, it checks the internet connectivity is there or not. It gives me the message on screen saying that you are offline or online, you're connected or not connected. That message you'll be getting it on screen. So that message I want to display, I want to have the verification of my network is available or not when I'm going to open my object. So that is my app. So when I'm going to open my app, the first thing I want to do is I want to verify my network is okay, is my there or not for me. So that verification code, I'll write it in my constructor. You understand? So anything that you want to do it as a part of the startup. Okay, as soon as the best example is PhonePe app, or you talk about Google Pay or any of these apps. So they will verify first there is a internet connection is there or not. Or let us say that now you're opening the contacts. You're opening your contacts now. When you open the contacts, now you'll check the internet is there or not. No, you'll not check. What then what you do? I'm opening the contacts there. My app is there called contacts. Then what you will do? You'll check the internet connection? No. We'll do something else there. Then what you'll do there? You'll show all the contacts, right? What are the contacts are available on your mobile? All those contacts I'll be showing on screen. Yes or no? I'll be showing all the contacts which are available on my mobile. So there I'm doing a different activity, I'm doing it. So there, depending upon your requirement, the startup activity will be different. So okay, let us say we talk about this example called a marks class now. So in this marks class, what I want to do, I want to allocate the how many subjects I wanted, 6 subjects or 7 subjects I want to allocate. So for that memory I want to allocate. That memory allocation, I'm doing it here now. So in my constructor. Now I feel that, okay, I want to have 6 subjects or 7 subjects or 5 subjects that I want to pass as the data to my class, then to my object, sorry. Then what I do, I'll define the here. So how many subject marks I want to have it? I'll take a variable called sub. Okay. In sub I'm taking. So how many subjects you wanted, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, that you'll pass as an argument. So then I'll define that one here, sub. The variable I'm defining it here. Okay. Now earlier what we did, we defined something without any argument. Then what I'm doing, so when I'm creating the object, so simply I just created the object like this. When I was not defining any argument for my class, okay. When I was not defining any argument for my constructor, so we called like this. Simply we called marks is equal to m1 is equal to new marks, we defined it. But now what we are doing it, here I'm defining an argument here. I'm defining an argument. So where I'm telling that this is the number of subjects whose value has to be initialized for me. I'm giving number of subjects. Now remember, when I'm calling this object creation, I'm doing it. I need to pass that argument has to be passed. I need to pass this argument. That's what, okay, I want to have 6 subjects, you want to have it, you give the value 6. Now let's say you want only 3 subjects, you give the value 3. Okay, so I'll be giving some value there, and based upon the value what I'm going to give, it will be assigning it to the SUB variable, and internally it will be allocating the memory for so many values. Okay, I want 3 values, it will allocate memory for 3 values. I'm giving 6, so it will allocate the memory for 6 values for me, like that. Okay, yeah, what's your do?
When we did not they in public after create object and we have called that. If we don't create object and we will call.
No, if you are not creating the object, constructors will not be called. Okay, so let us see that one also. So what I do is I'll just have some function. I mean, I want to have a message. So what I do is I'll give a message here inside my function. So system.out.println. Okay, I'll give a message now. Okay, just simply to know that that method is called or not. Okay, I'll give the method called constructor called. Okay, I've given a message there saying that it's a constructor is called. Sorry. Understood what I'm doing? I'm giving a message saying that constructor called. That message I'm printing there. So this message should be printed when I'm going to create the object here. Okay, the message should have been printed. Let's see, it's going to print for me or not. Is it written complete code? Fine, it should be working. Like okay, so we have a problem here because the variables we are not created. Set marks. I'll just remove this variable part. So this also we don't have, the variables are not there. Okay. This also I'll make it as a remark. So remark is non-executable for me. Okay. I'm just writing some dummy code here. So let's not worry about the code part. So only for checking purpose we are writing is. Or to avoid all the confusion, simply remove it out. Okay. So we'll remove them. So I don't want to worry about all this. Let's not worry about right now. We'll discuss that, how to do it and all that. Okay. So let us see. I've not done anything there. Just I've created the object, and then let us run the code. So when I run my code, you see that message is there called constructor call. So where this message we have printed here inside our constructor, right? So in this constructor, we are giving that message. That message is printed for us. Now, there is one more method way of your working it. See, I'm creating the object. So object creation can be divided into two lines. So one is you create the reference of it. This will be acting as your reference. Then you assign now the memory allocation. So you're going to do the memory allocation in the next line. So let us say, so here I'll give a message now, system.out.println. Okay, println. Now it is in main. I'm just giving some message called in main. Okay. So in main, ref created for me. Okay. Now let us run and check. So what is going to happen? So we see that in main ref created. So when this message we are getting it now, see in the line number 6 we have written that. In line number 5 what we did, we have created the reference, just marks M1 we have written. So there the what constructor is not called. Where the constructor is called? So after this line, that is line number 7. Okay, I'll do one thing. Okay, I'll just give one more message. System.out.println. Okay, now again I'll write say in main only. It is after mem allocation. Okay, so you are allocating the memory for the object. Now let us run and check. What is wrong? Semicolon we have missed. Yes. Now you see in main. So I'm getting the message from line number 6. That is in main reference created. Then again, so line number 7, you see that the message is coming for me is constructor called. So it is going to the object. Okay, it is going to the class. There the object is created and coming back to the main for me. So again, so in line number 8, we said in main after the memory allocation. So you see that in between those two, the message is going to be printed for me constructor call. So the object creation is going to be done when you're going to allocate the memory for the object. So then the constructor will be called internally for me. Understood? So constructor will be called automatically. We are not calling that constructor. It is calling automatically. Now, another important thing one has to remember is, as we said, we can have constructors of two types, with argument, without argument also we can. That is with parameters, without parameters we can have it. So this is with parameter. Now, if I'm defining a constructor without any parameter, so here I need to tell, okay, so here I need to define this. Okay, 3 or 4, what I need to do that. We can have constructors with parameters, constructors without parameters. Both we can have it. Okay, but remember, so if I'm going to have the constructor without any data there, that is without any parameters, I cannot pass the parameters here. So if you look in line number 13, there are no parameters for me. Okay, in the line number 13, there are no parameters. Now, when I'm calling it in line number 7, I cannot pass any value here. For example, let us say I'm passing some value there. 12 subjects I'm going to give it. Then what will happen? Automatically, you see that. So Java will be giving you the error there, indicating that there is no matching constructor is not there. So I'll get the message saying that matching constructor is not there. The constructor is not defined for me. The constructor marks of int is not defined. You are trying to pass as number as an argument. It looks, is there any function is there matching? Okay. Whenever you're calling a function, it always looks for the matching parameters are there or not. Similarly, for constructors also, when it is going to call it, the constructors are going to be called during the object creation. At the time of your object creation, it's going to verify that. Now, okay, understood this? So how it's going to work for us? The memory allocation is going to be done at the time of object creation. We are going to do it. So generally, what is that code that we write in the constructors? In the constructors, we write the code for initialization of the object, or we call it the resource allocation. Okay. So resource means maybe it is memory, maybe your database, or maybe your network, okay, or anything else. Yeah. We can do the initialization of array can be done directly. No problem.
Creating object and column for constructor also.
Once again.
For constructor, there is suppose here for marks method is there.
Hmm.
For marks method, we have created an object and again we are calling that. So the same method only it is there. So when we need to create special class for that and again same method.
Very good. So good question here. Like now you are asking a question like why we have to do it only in constructor? Why don't we do it in some other method? Right. Now, what is the difference between a regular method and a constructor for us? It is called automatically. The method is called automatically. So what happens is when the method is called automatically, so you need not to worry about calling that particular method. Now, for example, we'll talk the example. I'll just give an example. Okay. For the online students, okay. So what is our doubt is, so why we have to define only in the constructor is the question for us. Now, okay. Now what is said is, okay, maybe the question is something like this, like, why should I define it only in the constructor? Why can't I do it in another method? You know, one thing is what constructors are the methods which are called automatically for us. So you need not to call that particular method, need not be called. So that method is called automatically. Okay. You better tell now, why should I define only in the constructor? Why don't I do it in a normal method is the question. So one reason is what it is called automatically, and then so it is going to take care of calling by itself. If I forget it, okay, if I am forgetting to call that particular method, then what happens? Memory allocation will not be done. Then what happens? Your system will get you the problem. So your code will be giving you the problem because the variable initialization is not being done and you are trying to use that variable, you'll get the error. Especially I'm talking about my array part there. Okay, understood? So constructors are called automatically, so need not to worry about that. Generally what happens is we do the memory initialization and all that, we'll be doing it in the object creation itself. Okay, we can do it. Now it's not necessary that we should not define it. Another method is not necessary not to define it. We can also define it, but only thing is what if you forget to call that method, it will be a problem for you. So to avoid that one only, what we are doing is we are going to do it only in the constructors, right? We can also define in other method also, not necessarily it should be done only in the constructor part. Okay, for example, let us say you are checking in, let us say that PhonePe app only, you take the example. So in the PhonePe app, what you did, when you're opening it, there is no network connection, you give the message. After some time, there is a network connection has come back. Now you want to connect now. Then where you will do it? You have to do it in another method only, you have to do it. So you cannot tell now, you please close the app, again reopen it because there is network connection is there. We cannot tell that. So that code, I'll be writing it in another method also, I'll be writing the code, and that method, I'll be calling it so that it connects to my network like that. Understood? Okay. Generally, what we use the constructors for the creation of the objects, and inside the constructors only, we write the code for the initialization of the object and all that. Understood? Okay. So when you ask me the question, is it only we have to do it in constructor? No, not necessary to do only in the constructor. You can also do it in some other method also, we can do it. For example, let us say I'm not doing it in constructor and I'm not doing it. Now let us say that you are defining one method called read marks. I'm defining a method called read marks as a method. Now in the read marks method, I will tell before I call, when I'm calling the read marks methods, I'll tell how many marks you have to read, 3 or 4 or 5 marks you want to read it. I'll define there. Then it will take care in the inside that one. Understood what I'm telling? So let us say that you are going to define a method called read marks here. So for this, you pass the argument. Okay. So how many subjects you want to have it? I'll take a variable called subs. Okay, subs I'm going to take it. So in this one, I'll define it. Okay. So my array, it's equal to new int of. So how many subjects you're defining? So subs I'm going to do it as an argument here. So this, so I need not to worry about in my constructor part. Okay. So here I'm not doing it. So in the constructor, I'm not doing it. I'm doing it in my normal method, regular method, I'm defining it, read marks. So then, so in the object, after I have done the creation of my object, then, so I'll be calling the object, M1 object dot, I'll call the read marks. So here I'll be passing how many subjects, 5 subjects I'm passing. Now inside this marks, read marks method, So you can write the code for reading the data. Okay, so for int x is equal to 0, so where x is less than, so how many subjects are there? I mean, how many values that you want to read? So you can say SUBS variable can be used, or alternate what I can do, I can use the dot length property can also be used for the arrays. Okay, I can make the dot length property for the arrays. So it's going to read, so it is going to repeat for n times. It's going to repeat. How many times? It is 0 to m dot length. So automatically it will take what is the length of my array. It will take that one and it will be reading it for me. Understood? Like that you can define. Okay. So if you want to work with the arrays, there are other methods. This is one such method. You can use it for the working with the arrays. Right, like that. Okay. So any other questions? Any other questions you have? Okay. So we are talking about the constructors there, and we talked about the normal methods, and we talked about the constructors. Now you talk about a normal method or you talk about a constructor. We said that we can have two different types. One is constructors with methods, with parameters, constructors without parameters. Methods also we can have it. Methods also we can have with parameters, without parameters. Okay. So when I'm defining constructor, what will happen is I'll be having two or more constructors I can have inside my class. Okay, methods also can have two or more inside my class. But remember, when you're going to define a method, maybe irrespective of a constructor or a normal method, we can define multiple methods with the same name. Understood now? We can define multiple methods can be defined with the same name for us. Okay, fine. So I can have the multiple methods. Okay, we can have multiple methods with the same name. The concept is called method overloading, we call it as. When you say method overloading means what? So I said more than one method can be there with the same name. So when you say more than one method with the same name, we have to follow certain rules for it. Okay. That means when I'm talking about the function overloading or what you call method overloading, so we can have multiple methods. So that is, you can have one method will be there with two parameters. You can have one more method with three parameters. That is, the rule number one says is what? The number of parameters that you're going to define for each method should be different. Okay, you understand what I'm telling? So when you talk about your method overloading, so when I talk about my method overloading, so we have to follow certain rules. So what are the rules now for me? The rule number one says is the method should have different number of parameters. Okay, so they should have different number of parameters. What do you mean by this? For example, let us say I'm defining a method called break. Okay, one method takes two parameters for me, A and B. I can have one more method, you can define it with the different number of parameters. The parameters type should be different for me there. So what is that? We say it should be big. So let us say int A, int B. You cannot have same number of parameters, but you should have three parameters must be defined. You should define three parameters. So what do you mean by method overloading? So method overloading is a concept which says that I can have multiple methods. Okay, I can have multiple methods with the same name. Okay, I can have multiple methods with the same name is what you call method overloading. When you say the method overloading, we should have what? The rules you have to follow. So what are the rules that we need to follow? The first rule number one says that we should have different number of parameters should be different. Okay. Example, let us say you are having one parameter, I mean one method you are defining with two parameters. I can have the same method name can be used, but the number of parameters should be more than two or less than two. It cannot be again two for me. Understand what I'm telling? Okay. So that is my rule number 1. Now, the rule again continues for me. So what the rule 2 says, the rule says that if number of parameters are same, right? Okay, if your number of parameters are same, then what is that? Very good. Data type must be different. Okay, data type must be different for me. That is what the rule number 2 says. That means what? I'm having one method is there with 2 parameters. Then you can have the same method. We can have the same method can be there, but parameter type, if we are going to have 2 parameters only, it should data type must be different. For example, I define it as float, and the other one is also I'll take it as float B. So parameter type must be different. When the parameter type must be different, if the number of parameters are same. Understood? If the number of parameters are same, then the parameter type must be different. Clear? Understood the rules there? So the method overloading rules. Okay, these are the rules that you have to follow for the method overloading. Clear? So we'll take one example. We'll take the same example. We'll take big example. We'll take. Okay. So we'll take the class. So I'll take the class. Now I want to define a class called number. Okay. So which is having 2 overloaded methods for me. I want to have the overloaded methods. Overloaded methods called big. So what it says, so one big is AB. Okay. So one second big is 3 parameters. Right? 3 parameters. So this is what I want to define. So let's see class number, right? Open the flower braces. Then, so inside this, we said we don't want any data to be stored inside my class. I don't want any variables. So what I'm doing is simply I'm defining 2 methods I'm going to define. Now remember, when you talk about your methods, the method says what it has to return also, that has to be taken care. So int, and this one is also int for me. Okay, when I'm going to define my methods, I'll say int big of integer a comma integer b. I will type. Now, how to find out the biggest of 2 numbers? A greater than b. Then you say return a, else return b. I'll compare the values of a and b there. If a is greater than b, return the value of a, else return the value of b. Okay, like that. So how about the 3 numbers? So I want to find out the biggest of 3 numbers. I want to have integer a, integer b, integer c. Any help? Okay, 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 okay. No. See, already we have written the code for 2 numbers. Can we use it for 3 numbers? I have written the code for 2 numbers. I want to use it for 3 numbers. Is it possible?
We can take that output and we'll compare this.
You compare 2 numbers, you get one as the biggest. Take that output, use that one with the 3rd number, you can also get the output. You would understand what I'm telling? I want to reuse my existing code. I have written some code already. I have written that code. I want to reuse it. So then how I'm going to do it? So what I do is I'll take some t as a variable, what you call temporary variable, I call it as. Okay, or let me use a word called temp only. So first what I'm doing, I'm finding out the big of a comma b. I'm doing it. So when I say big of a comma b, what will happen? It takes a and b as an argument and it is going to give me the biggest. For example, 10, 20 are given. So it gives me 20. That 20 it will be there in temp. So I want to compare this one with C. Now I'll say return, okay, big of temp comma C, all right. Can we write like this? Yeah. I can write like this. Or I can do another way also. Not necessary to do this one also. What I do? I'll just say return. So instead of temp, I'll write big of A comma B. So first I'll give A comma B. So it will find out which is the biggest. It returns that I'm using as an argument for the another big, and I'm comparing with C there. Either wish. So you can write first, you can call big, store it into temp, and again give the temp as an argument, or directly call that big method itself, and then you can do it. So any method that we want, we can follow it. So I'm telling you where I'm going to use the code which is already written by us. We have written a code for big, 2 numbers. The same code can be used for 3 numbers also. So I'm reusing my code there. Code reusability I'm talking about. Yeah. Not necessary. You don't give to give data types are not given. They understood automatically what type of data that you are passing is being understood by my compiler will understand that. Okay. You understood there? I'm just talking about all these things, right? So I'll create the instance of my number class, number n1 is equal to new number I'm giving it. So number class I've created the instance. Then I want to call the methods there. I'll say b1 dot big of 2 numbers. I'll give the argument 10, 30 I gave it. Okay, it will give me which is bigger there. Understood? I'll just I'll print it on screen. System.out.println. Okay, I'll just say biggest. So we'll see 2 numbers is going to tell me the biggest of 2 numbers. It's going to give me 30. So you want to find out the biggest of 3 numbers, then we can use this again. So what I'm doing here is I'm passing manually values I'm giving it. Okay, so 10, 30, then I'll give 20. So biggest it will give me. So there it should give me. Okay, again we give 30 there. Okay, I'll give this is 40 in between. I'm getting the 40. So it depends upon you, like how you are calling it. So if I'm calling with 2 parameters, it goes and calls the function with 2 parameters. If I'm calling 3 parameters, then it goes to the 3 parameters method, and then inside that what you are doing, well, that code will be executed for us and comes back. Understood? You understand what I'm telling? So if you want, you can call the 3 parameters directly. First you can call it, no issues there. Okay, not necessary that first 2 should be called, then 3 should be called. Yeah. So which method it has to be called? It is going to be decided by the compiler for me based upon what number of arguments you are giving it. So what is the data, number of data that you are giving it? Either you are giving 2 number of parameters or 3 number of parameters you are giving. Based on that, it will be selecting automatically the methods will be called automatically. So if you want, you can also have the verification can be done. The code, you can also write some, like for the constructors, we wrote the code, right? Method called with 2 parameters, we can give a message like that. So method called with 2 parameters, or method called with 3 parameters, you can give there. Okay. So that also can be done, no issues in that. To find out which method is getting called for us. Now, obviously what happens here is, first I'm calling the method with 3 parameters. So it will call the second method is going to call, that is my line number 20, it is going to call. Directly it goes to line number 20. So in the line number 20, we are calling big of 2 there. So then what happens? Again, it goes to my line number 14. It calls that one and comes back. Again, it will be calling it because we are calling it twice there. So it's going to call the method with 2 parameters multiple times. It's going to call for me, and then it's going to do the rest of the work. It's going to be done. Understood? So any questions over here? So this is what I have taken simple example for integers only we have taken. Mhm. Okay. Yeah. Any questions over here? So like this, we are written for two integers. We are written. We said what the another rule is there for the overloaded methods. What is another rule for overloaded methods? If number of parameters are same, that is both the methods are having two parameters, then the data type must be different. Okay. So this is one. So if I'm going to have, okay, I'll do one thing. I'll just copy. I'll just open it to a notepad. I'll just copy it. I'll just copy the example there. So we are talking about the second one. So if the number of parameters are same, then so if number of parameters are same for me, I want to have the different data type must be there. So let us remove this part. See, now if I'm writing like this, Eclipse will automatically identify that you are trying to duplicate things there. So you're going to have the same signature for both the methods. Two methods you are going to have it, but with same signature it is there. Signature is made, everything looks same for us. What you call? Either you call a word, use a word called signature, or we use a word called prototype. The word we will be using called prototype there, or we call it as signatures. The signatures are going to be same for me. See, your Eclipse is showing that it's a duplicate for me. Now to avoid that one, the other one you can change it. Now let us say I'll make it as float there. Okay, so you make it as float or you can make it as double, as you wish. But the data type should be different for me. That's it. When I say that it's going to be float, obviously the return value will also be float for me here. The same code remains. So it is the same code. I need to write this. I need to write the same code. Okay. So this one method is big. The other method is also big only for me. So, but how we are doing it? So this is my float. So this is my float A, and this is my float B. I'm taking both the parameters are same. So the number of parameters are same for both the functions of both the methods. So what I'm doing, I'm changing the parameter type there. Yeah.
Parameter type only should be different data type, or even return type of the method different also types.
Good. I never spoke about the word called return data type. I spoke only about parameters. So obviously if the parameters are different, then so the return data type also should be different for me. I cannot say that this is going to be integer for me. So if I'm trying to return an integer, what will happen? It will be giving me the concatenated value to be giving it, right? So we get the decimal parts will be removed. We'll not be getting the proper result. So we always prefer to use the same return data type should be there for us. Okay. And other important thing is the method overloading doesn't speak about the return data type. So method overloading speaks only about parameter passing. Okay, not for the return data. You can have them. So you can have whatever you want to have the data types, you can have it. No issues in that. So the first one is I'm writing 10.3, I'm giving it, comma. So other one is 23.8, I'll give it. Two things. Now, remember, when I compile my program here, so I'll be getting the error. Can you guess what will be the error? What will be the error? F will not be the error. What is the error? Okay. So first I'm defining the, so two parameters with integer and two parameters with float type. Okay. So I'm calling first is float. The second I'm calling the integer. Both are not same, means A and B should be same. Here A and B are same. Here also A and B are same.
And A and B, when we are giving input, given A as 30 and B as AS10 and AS30 in first week method, and in second week method we are given AS10.3 and AS22.
So what do you mean is here also should be 30 should have been there. No, not necessary. That's wrong.
Float is greater than integer.
Float is greater than the integer value. Not exactly. Maybe float is greater than integer, but not exactly. The answer is not that. Now here what happens is, remember in your Java what happens is the numbers with the decimal point is considered to be, number with the decimal point is considered to be double. Number with the decimal point is considered to be double by default. It assumes that that is 10.3 is a double value. It is not a float value. So when I'm compiling my program, when I'm trying to execute my code here, it gives me the errors here. So what that means? Because it says there is a loss of precision for me, or it doesn't found something what you call double data types are not there. You are trying to pass two values which are not matching here at all. That is what it says. Float and float you are using it, but you are passing, you are assuming it's a float value. But what Java is assuming, it is a double value. That is what it says. It could not find that. It says that. Now what I do is to avoid the confusion for Java, I'll say this is my float value. For that, I need to place F. Okay, I'll place the value F there to tell that Java that that is a float value, that is not a double value. Now you'll get the answer. Understood? So I'm telling my Java that is a float value, not a double value. By default, Java assumes that the number with the decimal point is assumed as a double value. So what will happen? It will cross verify that you are given a double value and you have defined it as float. You'll get the error. To avoid that, you either you put that one as F there or convert the data type to double. Understood what I'm telling? So this is one method of doing things. The second method is what you can make it as, instead of float, you convert that one to double. Okay, understood? Any questions? Yeah. Any questions? Now, if you don't want it, okay, let's say here we are assigning the values directly. We are trying giving the values as an argument. No, I don't want to do it. Then what we can do? We can read the values from the user and pass those values to the function. That also can be done. So if I want to read the values, we can give enter first number, second number. You can give a message, read them, and pass that one as an argument to your function here, and you can get the work done. Okay, either way. Yeah. So any questions? What do you mean by method overloading? So what are the rules that we are going to follow for method overloading? Right? Understood here? Okay. So we'll stop here and we'll continue on tomorrow. We'll continue. Okay. So any questions are there?